Leo's other parable, teaching, sure. Jesus heals a man let down through the roof of a house. I think a lot of us are familiar with this story, but very eager to hear from a different perspective. Leo, please.
Hello and good evening, everyone. So let's do a little test. What did Joanna De Angelis says with her message? Huh? To be wise? Okay. It's we're there. Great. Yes. So I'm gonna say just the first thing, and then we're gonna go back to it. That she says, control your will. And when things are kind of just going along as you wish, right? That's how I feel today, which is a great thing, but it's also scary, right? Because as much as we prepare, as much as we bring these topics, it also dawns on me in terms of, oh my gosh, she opened this randomly, and the message is so connected with what we're talking about here today that it's kind of scary, right? Either they're trying to help us get this, really the message of the master, or it's just meant to be. Let's put it that way. Hopefully, it's all the above, right? Because I also like to say that I'm not prepared, right? And when I say that I'm not prepared, is that I'm not just trying to humble myself in a negative or different way, but there's much more for us to grasp it, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. And the first thing that one of the other things that I want to say as well is that we start this idea with this idea of bringing the parables, Jesus' teachings every month. I think we skipped a couple months, which we would like to continue next year as well. But it's first of all for me, right? And I ask for your prayers, those on the web as well, that when we speak, guess what? There's a higher level of responsibility, because now we know. Now we know in terms of mentally speaking, right? Didactically speaking, but also we have a necessity, or we have a responsibility to attune with our hearts with the message, because it's a lot. It's truly a lot. And we will bring this last message of the year. And I would like to say personally is one of the, I think it's admirable or beautiful passages of the Bible, right? It's not a parable. It's actually a teaching, right? Hopefully you will see the same way. We can take it as a parable in terms of what happened and whatnot, but it's not a parable. It's actually one of the teachings that we find, which is the men being brought, right, from the roof of a house to see the master. And we invite everyone to be this man, this paralytic men coming down on the roof of the house, but also his friends, but also those who are inside. Because there is a number of things that we can sit today and really dive into every single aspect of the message, but we don't have time. Perhaps we can extend in a different time. So there are certain elements that we're going to talk about it that I believe that it's important for all of us. We will hopefully also have time at the end as well, so that you can bring your perspective, what caught your attention, right? But it's definitely one of the most beautiful passages of the Bible. It actually can be found on the Gospel of Luke, chapter 5, verses 17 to 26, and Mark, chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. We're going to stick with Luke, okay? No preference here, nothing really, there's really not much of a variation or change, but we're just going to stick with that version. This is right here is a beautiful painting. I think they call etching, I think, if not mistaken, which is very hard to do. As you can see, the lines and everything, so that and it's actually done on metal so that copies can be made as well out of it later on. It's really, really, really beautiful. One of the things that I try to do is to bring these the beauty of the paintings, right? The different illustrations, so that we can connect with it, and we see the master, and we see the man being brought down, and the crowd as well. So we have the picture of what was happening at the time, and it kind of draws us into it, right? Hopefully. So, as usual, let us listen to what the passage has to say. We're going to dive a little bit into it. We're not going to do the actual analysis of who is there, who is not there, but kind of take some of the elements out. It goes like this. On one of the days while Jesus was teaching, some proud religious law keepers and teachers of the law were sitting by him. They had come from every town in the countries of Galilee and Judea and from Jerusalem. The power of the Lord was there to heal them. Some men took a man who was not able to move his body to Jesus. He was scared on a bed. They looked for a way to take the man into the house where Jesus was, but they could not find a way to take him in because of so many people. They made a hole in the roof over where Jesus stood. Then they let the bed with the sick man on it down before Jesus. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to them, "Friend, your sins are forgiven." Continuing, the teachers of the law and the proud religious law keepers thought to themselves, "Who is this man who speaks of as if he is God? Who can forgive sins but God only?" Jesus knew what they were thinking. He said to them, "Why do you think this way is in your hearts? Which is easier to say, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or 'Get up and walk'? So that you may know the Son of Man has the right and the power on earth to forgive sins," he said to the man who could not move his body, "I say to you, get up, take your bed, and go to your home." At once, the sick man got up in front of them. He took his bed and went to his home, thanking God. All those who were there were surprised and gave thanks to God, saying, "We have seen very special things today." So, we can go back and point out that at the same time, Jesus was being tested. He was being questioned, right? On what he could do and what he could not do. To some, perhaps, we could think that some of these individuals were saying, if I test him, he will do things that is supernatural. If I'm daring because I don't believe that he will do, right? So we can write a number of hypotheses, right, of what was going on in their hearts and their minds as well. Because some of them, when I say mind and heart, they were not connected. The mind and heart of some of these individuals, right? Some of them felt that the house was full of people. There was no more space for anybody to get in. So much so that they brought the men in, right? So there were a lot of people who believed. A lot of people were going there to be healed. Of what? Only God knows. Many sicknesses, many issues that perhaps they had, right? We don't know. So I kind of bring this element as well because sometimes we can be the same way, right? When we're going through our troubles, our tribulations of life, we go through the same thing. Is it really possible that we, going to the Master, right, that he will be able to heal or help us with our situation? And then we also have the element of the physicality, right? A man who cannot move his body now just got up and was healed. But there are elements that we can bring as well, which I think is extremely important for us in the sense of the man did not get there by himself. There was a group of friends who said, all right, let's take this guy over there, right? He wasn't alone. And Jesus said, you are healed. Not only to that man who was brought down, but everyone else. So it was a collective effort. And I think, or should I say, I am certain that the reason I like this so much is because of this collective effort that we have here, right? It's not just that individual. He went through, this is a man, so he went through his whole life being paralytic, right? He couldn't walk. And he went through this really tough life. And then comes the master at an adult age. He's being brought by friends who also was with him. Because let's think of this. This could not just be somebody, oh, let's pick him up and take him over there. This is probably people who lived with him. And somehow in their hearts, they also had within them, you know what? Let's give it a try. Let's take him to Jesus because this man is curing people. This man is healing people, right? I don't want to create the image that we are, again, and this is why the study of the Genesis that we do on Thursday is extremely important, right? For us to understand what we call now the supernatural. We actually almost finalized that part of the book. We're going towards that part of the book now on Thursdays, Thursday evenings. But if you go back and study the part of fluids, you have to really, start the part of fluids for you to understand on how these treatments, let's call treatment, how these healings happen and how some of these individuals were cured. Kardec actually explains and brings us the light that obviously he knew more than we do. He understood more of the physicality as well as the essence of the individual. This is also important, the heart and the mind of that individual. But he knew much more than we know nowadays. So this is just for us to have a reference that if the idea of the curiosity of how it happened, we have a reference to go back, right? Again, study fluids and Genesis and other books as well. But there you will find some of these answers. And actually, this is actually this part over here when that he asked them, is why do you think this way in your hearts? Which is easy to say, your sins are forgiven, or get up and walk. What is easy to say, right? But again, we don't want to dwell much on that. But on this element that this individual was brought by friends. They were together. Much like we have mothers, fathers, right, brothers and sisters who either give a push on that loved one, right? Or perhaps they pull, right? Let's go. Come on. Let's go to this place. Let's do something different. Let's try something different because what we have been trying thus far is not helping. Or perhaps say, we haven't done anything yet, so we need to get out of the same of the life that we are right now. The idea here is that they wished on a cure, right? They wish upon something different, and it happened. One of the elements that this passage also brings to mind is what the Spiritist Center is for us. Not in terms of the excitement of the mediumistic teachings, right, that we have. Many of us have gone to the Spiritist Center or think of a Spiritist Center as a location of, I'll go over there, I'll receive a message from this person, from that person. But really, with teachings like this, right, when we ourselves, we pick up our paralytic, right, and we go. Or when we come for someone else, that perhaps our family members are not in tune yet with the idea, but we come and we pray for them. What happens? We're bringing that person with us, right? And this is one of the elements, if not one of the most important elements that this message brings to us. That is, we are in this collective journey, right, to carry one another, to help one another. And it's not only the Spiritist Center in terms of the physical space and whatnot, but this can also be our homes. When someone comes and visit us and they bring us a concern, they complain about something, right? How many times, how many of our gatherings have been of somebody coming to us and yapping about someone else or a situation at work, right? And this is the moment that we take these teachings, what we see, and we them, all right, let me carry this person to a different state of mind, right? Oh, it's so hard, it's so difficult to get in there. Let us open a space on the roof and help the person come down to earth because they're probably flying someplace else, right? So it's in our homes, it's our work, it's our hearts, right? Because sometimes it's even hard to acknowledge that someone else is going through because we're going through our issues. These friends, they had to get up and go as well. They had their issues, but they put themselves on the side. Let's take the paralytic man. Let's call him John. Let's take John over there because he's more in need. So there is a great level of responsibility when we put ourselves in, oh, I need. But yeah, I need. But if I'm going, let me take someone else with me, right? Let me be that person who is carrying that individual as well. And I heard something interesting the other day. If we're being helped, and this, we can take this in many, many ways. If we're being helped, somebody's carrying us. If we're helping someone, right, we're carrying someone. In the scale of things, obviously, there are great moments of my life that I have been carried by someone else because I was being helped. It's a natural thing. We live in society. But what's best? When we are in control and we're carrying someone, despite our difficulties, right? That we're doing our effort and say, let me do my part. Because sometimes just doing my part, I'm carrying over other individuals as well. If anything, we're giving example so that they do the same thing, right? It's not a selfish way to say, perhaps a little bit harsh for some of us, but let's be the one who is carrying, right? Instead of someone being a burden on someone else's life. So let us focus for right now, because there are other elements that we're going to bring on this as well. But let us focus on this idea of what we have in our hands. And yes, I'm going to focus on the Spiritist Center so that we can also do this at our homes, with our hearts, because the message that we take from this place, hopefully, we can actually use it in every single day of our lives, in every single aspect as well. What is Spiritism and the purpose of Spiritism, of Spiritist Center in our society? This is something that we have covered here before. Let's see what Spiritism really is. Spiritism is a science which deals with the nature, origin, and destiny of spirits, as well as their relationship with their corporeal world. It is the set of principles as revealed by the superior spirits contained in Allan Kardec's works, which constitute the Spiritist fundamentals: the Spirit's book, the Medium's book, the Gospel explained by Spiritism, Heaven and Hell, and the Genesis. And this is right there on the book, What is Spiritism? Why do we bring this here? The first paragraph. It is the science which deals with the nature, origin, and destinies of spirits. Look at the paralytic man. Question yourself. If he was born that way, why was he born that way? Because everybody's standing. Just a thought. Why was he a paralytic? It's a rhetorical question. We don't have to answer right now. right? So Spiritism brings to us an idea that, okay, if he's paralytic now, there must be a cause. There is a reason, because if we believe that just God made him that way, then the God that we believe is not just. Not even talking about love yet. It's not just. So then it gives us this insight that, oh gosh, that's not to judge anybody, please. Okay, when we see somebody in a paralytic person or somebody who's going, through trouble, for us to judge, but we have a better understanding on how we can help. Hopefully, that's the idea, right? Because there are a lot of spiritists, or some of us who believe to be spiritists, and we do such a thing. It's like, yeah, you see, yeah, look at your wife, look at your husband, no, it's not for us to do such a thing, right? Second thing, in Article 1 of the Medium's book, Chapter 30, now going to the Spirit Society, the Society's purpose is to study all of the phenomena related to spirit manifestation and their application to the moral, physical, historical, and psychological, sciences. Issues involve politics, religious controversy, or socioeconomics are forbidden. This is actually a part of the Medium's book that explains what a spiritist center should be and what not a spirit center should be, right? So it's important that we come and we bring this idea as well, that it is a place that we come to learn about ourselves, to learn about our nature, our origin, and where we will be. To continue, this is more in depth of what a spiritist center is. Vieira in this beautiful book by Sueli Calder-Schubert says the following: the Spiritist Center, therefore, today, repeating the experiences of that time, and I'm talking about Jesus' time, well, he was talking about that, has the purpose of studying and practicing the doctrine of the immortals, where the spirits are enlightened, learning in fraternal coexistence, the experience of solidarity, work, and tolerance, so that they can move towards plenitude. What happened in the passage that we just saw? If it is not one of the best example of what Bezerra de Menezes is saying here, I don't know what else we can bring as an example. I'll read it again. Of studying and practicing the doctrine of the immortals, where the spirits are enlightened, learning in fraternal coexistence, the experience of solidarity, work, and tolerance, so that they can move towards plenitude. Think of you are speaking with a crowd, any of us, and all of a sudden something opens up in the roof over here, and it's like, okay, and somebody comes down, and Jesus is like, okay, good, you guys did a great job. We're all healed. We're all happy now, right? Think of the tolerance. Somebody walks in the door right now, it's going to create disruption. We'll keep going. Somebody comes and screams or says something. Hopefully, our heart is to say, well, what's going on, right? But I want to also bring this to our lives. How can we apply this not only at the Spiritist Center, but also in our lives? How can we extract the moments that we have here and multiply it as someplace else, right? Where we live a more enlightened way, right? Where we learn with one another, where we keep this fraternal coexistence, right? Experiencing solidarity, work, and tolerance. An edifying workshop, it is also a hospital for dizzy and sick souls who need to free themselves from bad inclinations, vices, and morbidities, acquiring ideal health. It is, in the same way, a school of integral education, as it facilitates the learning of the laws of life, inculcating them within, so that attitudes and behaviors are renewed for their own benefit and for others, in the direction of the loving Father. Once more, This is in this in the book Spiritual Dimensions of the Spirit Center by Swilly Caldo Schubert. It's not in English yet. This is Leo's translation here, so bear with me. But it's a beautiful book for those who can read Portuguese. Please pick up a copy and definitely learn a little bit about it. It does not only talk about directly the Spirit Center, but all its elements as well, that we can grow with it, right? And again, imagine a world that, not right now, okay? Not right now, not yet. That we don't need a physical place to come and call a Spirit Center, or perhaps a church. When we make our lives this location, when we make our homes this location, it's far yet, right, for us to picture such a thing. But there will be a day. There will be a day. To finalize in this area, we'll see a couple elements of this book, Dictionary of the Soul. By the teachings here comes from several spirits through the hands of Chico Xavier. And Emmanuel says the following: a Spirit Center is a school where we can learn and teach, plant good and reap its graces, improve ourselves and improve others on the eternal path. The evangelical Spiritist Center, however humble, is always a sanctuary for mental renewal in the direction of a higher life. None of us who serve, even with our mere presence, to an institution of this nature should forget the dignity of the office received and the elevation of the priesthood that belongs to us. I want to make a quick parenthesis here. When Emmanuel says evangelical, it is in terms of embracing the teachings of our Master Jesus and what we study, right? Is to perhaps look at passages of the Bible, even though they are not on the Gospel according to Spiritism, but to look them as not praising the men, but the actual teachings that Jesus brought to us, right? A center, temple of heart, in the face of Jesus is a home for souls for whom lofty tasks of self-denial and fraternity, harmony, and light are destined. And this is by Joaquim Aquino, actually, another spirit who brought this message to us. So it is clear that it is a combination of elements, a combination of people, much like we are going through right now, right? It's not that not necessarily will be in a location where somebody will come through the roof, because houses were built differently then, that they could open up the roof, right? Depending on how they were. But the beauty is that something happened, right? There was a will, and they found out that there was a way. Okay, we cannot get in through the door. Let's get in through another way. Oh, it's crowded. Okay, all right. But we need to get this man over there. We need to get John over there, right? And this is one of the things that Emmanuel brings to us on message 118 of this book. And he focused on the actual paralytic, on what happened there, on their decision to go and knock on that door. He only uses part of the passage, and obviously Mark here, verse 4, where it says, since they could not get close to Jesus because of the crowd, they made an opening in the roof of the house and lowered the cot on which the paralytic was lying. What does it say about this? It says that many people confess their needs for Christ, but they complain that obstacles are keeping them from making the sublime approximation. How many of us that we're so caught up on our difficulties, and I'm not saying that they're not our difficulties, that sometimes it's even hard to pray. It has happened to me several times. I don't have the mind to even think straight, and you have to stop, and you have to connect, if anything, with God, right? If you want to bypass, Christ, that's okay. But I have been through it, and chances are that I'll be through it again. How many times People have come to me and say, let's do a different way. And I stubbornly say, no, this is it. This is it. This is it. Until the time comes that it's like, wow, what a waste of time. What a waste of time. And then Emmanuel, we're not going to read the whole thing. He says, however, in order for us to get close to the Master and be genuinely interested in his immortal benefits, it is crucial that we extend our capabilities, expend our resources, and proceed to meet him in the light of a living faith. What did the men do? Guys, I need to go see this man. Pick me up, help me out, take me over there. Now imagine them now going to that house, because he was using his resources. Capabilities, very few, right? The capability maybe to speak with some of these individuals and say, pick me up and take me over there. But the resources was also being used. His friends. We think of resources many times of material things, right? It's a very easy, I don't have any resources. I don't have money. No, but you have people around you, right? We have books. We have the internet. We have everything that, well, I shouldn't say everything. It can be subjective for some of us. But we have many resources that we can use, right? And he did so. Now, when he got there was an obstacle. And Emmanuel says the following: therefore, remember the paralytic of Capernaum. And if you run into great difficulties of a material nature that keep you from enjoying the presence of Christ, address yourself to the Most High with the help of your spirit friends, and let yourself fall at his divine feet, thus receiving new strength that will reestablish your peace and good cheer as well. So, if anything, let's go after. Let's really try to use our resources and find a way in. There's no door to knock. Well, guess what? There is a roof. And it's a beautiful representation that Emmanuel also makes for us, because it's like, let us come from up high, right? Connecting the will and the way. And we do this naturally. I'm not saying that we're not doing this. Imagine for parents who are facing difficulties with their kids. Imagine for that mother that is praying for someone, for a son or a daughter who is going through a tough time. Imagine individuals right now who are studying to become someone in their lives, and they're facing the difficulties of going to school. Imagine the spirits that are about to reincarnate, because it's not easy, right? If we think that it's hard right now here, right, in our lives, imagine the spirits who are about to reincarnate. Imagine them perhaps turning on some kind of device, let's call it TV, because that's easier for us to, and watching the news, what's going on Earth. What would you think? Me going back there? No way. No way. Think about it. But then we have help. We have resources, right? We have our mentor. We have our friends. We have future mother and father who's going to be with us, and many others as well. Just things for us to think about it. Imagine if we were in a different time with a different group of people. It may be a little bit worse, right? Or more difficult. But I want to take a turn with this. And for some of us, it may be a little bit sour, but hopefully we get the picture. And this is going to be a turning point in our lives. Let's call it that way, right? As we close this month of December, our intention is to get ourselves even closer to our Master Jesus, to really talk about his teachings in a different level, even though we try to do that throughout the year as well with this study as well. But in this book called Primícias do Reino, so if we were to translate this verbatim, it would be first fruits of the kingdom, okay? And what this beautiful spirit, Amelia Rodriguez, through the hand of the medium Divaldo Franco tries to do is to show us exactly it, the fruits of his teachings. Now, perhaps some of these fruits may not be the sweetest fruit that we would like to receive, but it is a fruit. It is a fruit. It is a start. And we will see what we're trying to say with this comment. She talks about this exactly passage, the same thing, but she brings us an information that perhaps we don't have in the Bible. So, just a plug here. Let us think of how does a spirit or somebody brings us information that perhaps was never told in the Bible? Well, anything that we live in our lives, it gets to be registered, right? In our spiritual body. Have you heard of the expression, I saw my life before my eyes, right? Is that correct how you say it, right? Happens when we're going through that really difficult moment of our lives and, something happens, something would remember things that perhaps we didn't think we could remember, right? We've seen this in movies when, those things are happening. But think of all these accounts, anything that happened at that time, it is registered somewhere. That's how Neo Lucio actually on this beautiful book, where is it again? Don't have it here. Jesus in the Home. He goes in the spirit realm, right? And he actually brings the accounts of what happened in Peter's home. Because what actually happens here right now, this passage was in Peter's home. And he brings accounts that perhaps is not in the Bible. He brings accounts of what was happening in the room, the people, the individual who was asking as well, and why he was asking, and how Jesus actually responded to that inquiries, to their questions, to their problems. So let's see what Amelia Rodriguez, as a reporter from the beyond, tells us of what happened that moment. She says the following. Capernaum was a small city located on the northern side of Lake Gennesaret. Just trying to say this here, sorry. Its valley were cool, crossed by singing streams. On its beaches, the waters were good for fishing and for this reason were popular with fishermen. The number of houses were low, surrounded by leafy trees, colored by vines with tiny flowers. Jesus loved that city and chose it for the beginning of his ministry of love. So, as you can see, she's bringing the environment, right? What was happening there, describing the environment and how beautiful it was and the reason why Jesus actually chose, right? She says, word of the Nazarene's masters, cures, and wonderful deeds spread from mouth to ear, attracting curious and afflicted people from the surrounding area. Simon Peter's house had been invaded by a large number of people looking for Jesus. The sun was high when a group carrying a paralyzed man tried to approach the door. The crowd was so compact that it was not possible. However, such was the affliction of the patient who had been confined to his bed for a long time that his friends lifted him to the terrace and lowered him through the ceiling of the room where the rabbi was. No news for us yet, right? The same thing that we have read. And I would say a more presentable way in terms of, I'm not discounting what we get from Luke and from Mark, but she gives a little more of account of what is happening there in terms of the scenario. Let's keep on. Taken by a sudden shudder, he asked, Master, how do you know my name? You know me? I actually jumped here one. And there was actually a passage, here, of one paragraph that says that that Jesus mentions his name. And then he says, Yes, I know you forever, Jesus replied. I am the good shepherd who knows all the sheep that the Father has entrusted me. Before Nathanael, that was his name, could even reflect on these words, Jesus stretched out his hands over him and said to him in a firm and imperious voice, "Get up, take your bed, and go home." Nathanael stood up and gave a shout of euphoria when he realized that he was free from the illness that had plagued him for a long time. And I do apologize about the paragraph there. So, what happens afterwards? At night, when Jesus was seeking recovery on the shore of the lake, Peter found him with his eyes filled with tears. He asked, "Rabbi, are you crying?" "Of happiness, I suppose. After so many happy events, I cry, but with sadness," said the master. "I cry, Simon, because at this moment, many of those I cure today are giving over to old addictions. They recover their courage, their voice, their health, to rush once again into the cliffs of foolishness." So that individual, and she's very adamant about it, that actual individual leaves there, and goes back to the things that perhaps he couldn't do in his life while he was incarcerated in that physical body, right? That was quote unquote paralytic, not being able to move. To continue, it will not be long before they find themselves entangled in new imbalances, painfully damaging their own existence. Meanwhile, not far away, Nathanael ben Elias commented on his cure with childish joy among drunken friends and a happy woman. Exactly as the master described, Nathanael, like so many others, without valuing the new chance he had received, gave himself over to mistakes and addiction. So, let's stop right here. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, there is a beautiful chapter 5. And I want to just keep it chapter 5. Read the whole thing. If you can, please go back to this reference, because it allows us to evaluate with this example our lives, right? The reasons for current sufferings in our lives and the reason for future, right? The reason of current, let's stick with that. The reason of current events of our lives or situations of our lives. That many of them are of the past, yes, but most of them is actually of this life. Are the things that we created this life. Remember at the beginning when we study that we were reminded that Spiritism is what? Is a science that studies what? Our nature and our future as well. Our essence right at this moment. So if I have this illness, if I have this difficulty right now, why is it so? If nothing happened that I created to be, let's not say anything negative about ourselves, that if I have this suffering now and I don't find any possible reason to go through this suffering right now, it's because it's actually rooted in the past. Now, that does not mean that I cannot utilize my resources to change. And that is one of the beauties of this passage as well. He was a paralytic man, but he did not rest until he was cured. And many of us will say, well, you know what? This is something from the past. Yes, I don't have to do anything about it. And we don't do anything about it. We don't change anything about it. We don't go and say, come on, help me out, right? We don't knock on the doors. He did it. And better yet, I'll say another thing another element here. If it wasn't for him to be cured, Jesus wouldn't have done it. He not only went and got to that moment, He was so courageous as, look, I'm going to get this done. This has got to happen. If this Nazarene can help, he's going to help me. And so he did. So he had what? He had the merit. Because if it was not to happen, it wouldn't have happened. And he actually got cured. So if anything, despite the fact that Amelia Rodriguez is telling us something that happened afterwards, this man is still, continues to be, and will be an example for all of us. Who am I to say to any one of us, or to even myself, I don't deserve this. Maybe I shouldn't go. Well, you doubt in yourself. You already lost the battle right there, right? So let us be this individual that goes, because it will be up to God to say, you are or you are not entitled to this change. So going back to the gospel according to Spiritism, if we're going through something, or if we have a family member, or if we go through something in our lives, and we cannot truly not find and I say this is smiling because sometimes it's easier for us to say yay or nay. But if we can truly not find the reasons for it in this lifetime, we can say, perhaps it's something that I bring from the past, right? And I say again, find it with joy. Let's do this analysis with joy, because sometimes we wanted to punish ourselves, right? And we go back to this message, right? When Joanna de Angela is saying, control your will, that sometimes we want things for ourselves, we want change for ourselves, that perhaps we don't know how to deal with it. What did he do? He went like a car without, or a horse without the reins, right? He got out of there so fast that it's like us after the pandemic. We did everything that we couldn't have done, that we couldn't do for the 2+ years, right? The little chance that we had to get together or do this or do that, we went ahead and did it, right? We think, oh, things will be a little bit calmer now. Now, Daniel and I were talking about this the other day. Driving has become, I think worse. Maybe because we're a little bit more, we're paying attention more. That may be so. But when we hear from other people saying the same thing, yes, I mean, has become a little bit worse, right? People are more aggressive. They need to get it now. Maybe they're afraid that something else is going to happen. We don't know, right? Maybe they're afraid that they're going to discarnate tomorrow, right? But what happens after? When we are granted something, right? And then something happens. This element is so important for our lives, because think of this being a trial in terms of him trying to, or asking before he reincarnated, right? To say, I'm going to go through this difficult moment of my life, of a new reincarnation. I'm playing mentor here now, trying to decide what happened, or, but it's just a hypothesis. I will reincarnate in this body. I will not be able to move. I will go through this moment to show others, or to prove to myself that if I believe, I will be cured, right? And he did everything that he was supposed to up to that moment where, after he's cured, okay, the continuation should have happened in terms of, let me exalt this element that I received, this change that I received in my life, and do unto others. Or perhaps just say, I was the paralytic man who was healed by Jesus. Simple as that. But no, he chose to go and live a life that he didn't live before. That is why, in the gospel according to Spiritism, we see that suffering that does not provoke complaint may undoubtedly be an expiation, but this indicates it was voluntarily chosen beforehand rather than imposed, and it is a test of strong resolution, which is a sign of progress. He could have stayed the way he was. He could have been taken to that location and not necessarily be healed. just to receive the message, just to soften his heart, right? His difficulties that he was going through, right? That doesn't mean that we have to do the same thing. No, we have to go. We have to be strong. We have to take this example and really fight for our lives whenever we're supposed to do, not only for our own lives, but the life of others, right? But he could just stay there. Okay, I'm okay with this. I'm okay being this way. As we have seen, Chico Xavier, many individuals had asked him, why don't you go and have your eyes operated for cataracts, right? He's like, it's okay. It doesn't bother me. Because he knew that perhaps that was something from the past. I'm not saying that we're going to do the same thing. If we have science nowadays, if we have all this technology developed, go and have the operation. However, what we're going to do with our eyes afterwards will count. That doesn't mean that, you go to your partner and say, well, the eyes are not working as I wish. What can I do? Go get glasses, right? I'm using the example just for us, but there are many things in our lives, many difficulties that we're going through that is the same thing. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay, as Emmanuel says, to use the resources. But what happens after, what we do with what we receive, is what is important. And she finalizes and says the following thing. Christ's proposal was never intended to offer men superficial joys. The pains that comes to us, usually caused by our negligence, our own negligence, are severe yet effective methods for healing and disciplining our spirits who relapse into error. Only the effective understanding and application of the Nazarene Master's teaching will enable us to achieve true happiness. We can be this man. The only difference that we wish upon one another is that when we get healed, when we receive what we want, whether material or not, whatever change that may be, right? That we don't go back into the old habits. January is coming. We make our New Year resolution, right? January is perfect. February is perfect. March comes, we go back to the same old habits, right? It's that eating, okay, you know what? I've done so well. Then you go back and you have a relapse. How many times we have done in our lives? I can say quite a bit myself. And I am not going to lie. Perhaps I will do it again. Because it's not on us yet, right? And this is the thing that we were saying at the beginning, that not necessarily, folks, we are saying that this was a bad man, because he did what was right up to that moment. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about this beautiful passage of the Bible. It is an example of encouragement for all of us. If there is a way, if there is a will, there is a way, right? It is one of the perfect examples that we can find in terms of that saying, right? But then afterwards, what happens? Okay, right? And he actually was bragging about it. I got healed. Here I am, right? And we do that sometimes too. We may not verbalize it, but we did. We put that as well. And one of the final comments that I would like to make, it is in this part that Amelia actually says that only the effective understanding and the application. It's beautiful for us to come here, talk about it, and look, I'm including myself. Receiving the message, right? Because as we speak, as we have to study, we have to really, and not receive it, but not apply it. I have my doubts about myself that I will be able to apply this every single time. And that's the beauty of it, that we're not lying to ourselves, right? How can you look at a plant, for example, or how can you meet the person the first time and say, I love you? No. It takes time. It takes dedication, right? And that is the same thing with us, with our bodies. Let's take a different look at it and say, I love you. Is start that new relationship with yourself. Is start the new relationship with the teachings of our master. Because as was reminded for us earlier, it is the place that we come and we are reminded of these things. It's not for us to just to connect. There is a connection, but what can we do with these teachings in our lives? What is the purpose that we come here, that we live in society, that we are by ourselves sometimes? What is your connection with yourself? I often think about that. And earlier today, Isabella and I were talking, my wife, for those of us who does not know, and I was saying, I can spend time with myself, right? And then I started thinking, okay, how do I spend time with myself? Because I can actually do it. I have my introvert moments that I go alone and I'm very quiet doing things, right? And then I started thinking, is it quality time? That was an inside voice. I didn't voice that to her because then it would be like, you know what? Our minds would be exploding. But is it quality time? What are the things that I'm thinking about myself, with myself? Because as we're thinking, as Joanna D'Angelo mentions, we're externalizing as well, right? And if I don't have a good relationship with myself, for sure I'm not going to have a good relationship with others and a good relationship with God. So why is it important again? These teachings is for, as he says himself, I am the way, the truth, and the life. It's for us to get closer to God. For those of us who may not like it, thinking that it is a evangelical spirit to center, no, right? But use this beautiful example of life that God has bestowed upon us and get closer to God. I'm not devaluing the other teachings that we have throughout the world, right? Because Joanna D'Angelo uses several of them, Emmanuel, but what is the way, the truth, and the life? So we hope that this message, even though Amelia Rodriguez actually brings the negative side of it, which is the end, she also reminds us of the faith, right? As is reminded in the Gospels. But she tells us this negative side of it, of what happened to him. But think of another present, another gift, that we go, that we get up, right? That we ask for help. We help someone. We are helped. But that we don't go and do the things that excites our hearts. When we forget to control our will of the past. Joanna D'Angelo again connecting with the message, right? Control yourself. Stop. Think. You just got out of the hospital and you're going to go ahead and have another feijoada, right? Are you going to go to the restaurant and indulge yourself? No. Stop. Think, right? Or you're hungry at night and it's like, okay, it's late at night. Is it going to be impossible to wait until that morning to have something? And have something light, right? I'm using this example because it's, besides being mundane, right? It happens to all of us. Oh, just, get up in the middle of the night. Oh, that little piece of chocolate, right? That we want, right? Think about it. And what about the other things in life as well, right? That we deliberately just do things that it's like, and then you think about it, it's like, wow. What I would like to finalize with is that a passage that is also in this this chapter. Let us not get to a point where at the end of our lives, we're like, what ifs? We debate on the what ifs of life. And there are two ways for this. The things that we didn't do and the things that we did, right? The things that we don't do it's quite often very difficult because you don't know of the outcome, right? But also give yourself grace to say, I didn't do this because at the time I wasn't prepared for it. And the things that we have done in life, right? That didn't go so well. Give yourself grace. At least you tried. And you did it because at the time, that's what was right for you. Always knowing that I did with the intention to evolve and help others evolve as well. If we can say that, then it's completely different. And know that perhaps we will receive, like the paralytic man, another chance, receive another chance. Unfortunately, there was a cause, and being paralytic was the effect. But he was giving another opportunity to grow to the master and be healed. And then I'll leave to each one of you to think what we're going to do when we are healed. It's up to each one of us. With that, we would like to give our thanks, because for sure this work is not for the public, it's for us. We embarked on this idea of bringing these teachings at the beginning of the year, and we would like to continue because there's way more to learn or to study, but that we can apply as well. So I ask for your prayers so I can be the good vessel of not only speaking, because I still have a lot to learn on that as well, but also to conduct my actions. And as Joanna de Angelis says, to control my will. At least control it. Stop. Slow down, right? Slow down. So I'd like to open for questions and comments that we may have. I don't know, Daniel, where is my mouse? Oh, there it is. So Paula, hello Paula, and thanks for watching. Paula says, Jesus wasn't sexist as he healed Mary Magdalene, so why are men the subject of most healings in the Bible stories? It's an awesome question. I would say the following, that perhaps Jesus was not sexist, but society perhaps was. So for a woman or a group of ladies to go out and say, let's see the master, they would be questioned. What are you guys doing? Or they would be questioned, they would be seen, questioned, and perhaps reprimanded of going to see the master. Some of them did, right? But we also learned with Spiritism that there were consequences to that, right? The men were questioned. Think about it. The men of the time were questioned to go and receive that. It is a great question, but we also have to think that it's not that the teachings that were brought to us in the Bible was sexist, because men actually had the opportunity to do so more often. I think if it were to happen today, you know, as women is more liberated, has way more freedom than before, if not equal rights, I would like to say. Some may watch me and say, Leo, what are you talking about? Yes, right? And I think I would empower, what the question in saying that we're here because of a mother. That alone it stops the argument right there in terms of being sexist or not, or in terms of saying that I believe on this side or not, right? But when we take the element and we bring to the core of our beliefs, guess what? Women have way more power in certain senses, right? But going back to your question is to say that men was actually, I would say, had more freedom to go and to do these things, right? But then again, we have the healing of the woman who was bleeding. But we know what was going on with her as she was bleeding. Nobody would get not even near her, right? Because it was the custom and beliefs of the time. So I hope that helps. and bring some enlightenment with that. Before we go to the next one, Daniel, anyone would like to ask a question here? Comment? Jeanette.
It's just a kind of a wondering, like if he had, if the Nathaniel, don't remember his name, had not waste a little bit time, but he had take a little bit of time to hear Jesus, to hear the lessons of Jesus, as she said at the end. Take the time to get to learn, and probably he's not gonna be so fast going to the sin again, because he didn't, he just got to the healing and he ran away without taking time to learn, to get to know how to behave. And I was just wondering, he could be much better, way, if he have done that, like us around here. He had a lot of good things to do outside. I could be home resting, or doing something else, but I decided to be here and get to know.
It's a great point. I like what you're saying. I'll give an example. It's like somebody who has created their wealth through hard work, and they went through the hardships of creating that wealth, compared to someone who didn't go through, right, those lessons and hits the lottery. What is the probability of one of the other become poor again? Perhaps the man who hits the lottery, right? There is a famous basketball player who started making a lot of money. He went on a shopping spree, buying this, buying that, and pretty soon he was told by his agent that you will become poor if you continue this way. What did he do? He went back to school, and he got a degree on business administration. Start learning about on how how to invest his money. And it is true. This is actually a point that I didn't think about it. There could be your point, I think, of with all of this, is that let us just not receive the healing, but really bring the teachings to our heart. And that's what Amelia Rodriguez actually said, right? To internalize it. How is this important for me? How is a man coming through the roof to receive the blessings or the cure, right, important for me in my life? Because we can just say, oh, it's a beautiful teaching, it's a beautiful, it actually, there is The Chosen also depict the story as well, very beautifully. I didn't watch it. I believe that's what it is too, one of the passages. But how is this important for me in my life right now? As Bezerra de Menezes says, just like them then, right? How is this important for me now? How is the Spirit to Center important for me? How are these teachings important for all of us? So great point. Thank you. Anyone else? So Vladimir is watching. Hey, Vladimir, we miss you here. Thank you, Leo, for the important reminders you brought to us tonight. I'm grateful for all the help and support given by our incarnate and discarnate friends. Very true. Very true. The recognition, as Kirsten said a week ago, yes, a couple weeks ago, it's really interesting, right? That before we are grateful, we have to recognize, right? We have to make sure that we identify these resources in our lives, right? Not only the material, as we mentioned here, but the people around us. What is the impact of them in our lives? And we can flip the question too, how am I impacting someone else's life in a positive way, right? Next one, Daniel. Heavy Horse, I believe he's from down under, right? Yes, he is right there. All right. Hi, everyone. Hope you are well. Sending you all much love and best wishes. Have a great week, and thanks for sharing another wonderful talk. Love from Melanie in Australia. All right. It's probably I think it's 6 o'clock, another 12 hours or so. Who knows? He's watching us. This is a really interesting. Yeah, it's morning over there, right? So it's already on Sunday there, right? Anyone else? Daniel. No, I say Daniel doesn't have any more than anybody there. He's saying. So would you like to make a comment? Anything else? Okay. So let us not be that individual that gets to the end. That gets to the end of our reincarnation and it's looking for an opportunity. Let us look for opportunity to continue on what we started, right? Let us be the individual who is making resolutions based on what we have accomplished already, right? And not what we have left undone or to fix something that shouldn't have happened in the first place, right? I heard from a very wise man recently. Why create something? Why build something that you're going to have to fix in the future? In other words, why say a lie? You're going to have to fix in the future. Why do something that perhaps later on you have to come back and redo it, right? If you haven't put a puzzle together and you put one little piece and you kind of keep going with that puzzle, we don't do that, right? We look for the right piece of puzzle and we put on that right place and we keep going because we want to finish it. It's beautiful when we start, but then towards the end, it's like, oh, come on, really? Why have I start this, right? And sometimes our lives can be that way, but we look for that right piece of puzzle to put on the right place so that everything falls in place. It's not that we're going to be machines that we have to do like we hear in the business world, do it right at the first time, but at least our hearts, right, be settled with the positive things of light. On that note, we would like to give thanks to everyone who is with us and who will be with us in the future as well. And we can move on to the second part of our meeting tonight.